How you doing, sir? How you been, man? Everything all
I'm
right?
good. I'm all right. Not too bad. Not too bad.
Yeah,
All good.
Good,
All good in the hood, I think.
yeah, very
good to
cool.
see you.
Well, I
Great
don't know if you
album.
remember Nick here. He was on with us
Yes, I remember
last
from our
year.
Frost thing.
Yeah, that's right.
Indeed, indeed, I am
Yeah.
back
So,
like a bad rash, man. I got to tell you, Roy and I were on Cruise to the Edge, and you guys were missed. A lot of people were kind of talking about your previous performances on the cruise, and Frost were definitely missed.
Yeah, you can't do these things too many times. You just like become like, it's like Elvis in Vegas or something.
Yeah.
Don't want to overstay your welcome, as it were.
would you think Lonely Robot could be something that you take on there at some point?
Well, yeah, I mean, something they just have to ask me. I don't see why not. I've always enjoyed myself. What is this? It's like I love boats, even if I don't like progressive rock. I'm kidding. I'm
Even
kidding.
if,
That's
even
it.
if you
It's
don't like
canceled.
progressive rock fans, that's the difference.
Uh,
Yeah.
No, yeah, yeah, I'd happily do it again. I mean, I think, obviously Frost is kind of largely Jem's band, and I think, he's of the opinion that twice was enough, and he's probably right, As I say, it becomes ground prog day, doesn't it? Otherwise, you keep doing the same thing again and again.
Ground Prog Day. That
Ground
is
Prog Day,
great.
beautiful.
That's a great
That's got to
term.
be the next album title.
We have to use that for a podcast or something. That's fantastic.
Well,
Ground
yeah, I
prog
mean, we
day.
keep making the same album again and again. I think with Ground Prog Day. I hope I don't do that though. That's the difference.
That's right. Well, let's talk about the new record, A Model Life, new Lonely Robot record, the fifth one.
If we
And
could, I mean, I did an interview yesterday with some guy, and he was just talking about Arena for the entire duration. I was going, really? Did I miss a meeting?
well, a good band too.
Well, I'm going to throw in an It Bites question here if we get a chance
Yeah.
later on.
The new album comes out August
You
26th.
should know this, right?
Yeah, the new album comes out August 26th, and a couple.
You made a
singles are out
poster for
now.
me, remember?
That's right.
You
the
made a poster for me. That's the date on the front.
I've made a lot of posters, and your fifth album, man, in like a really short time. I mean, you've been really on a roll with this group.
Well, not really. If you think about the 70s and 80s,
Oh, that's
bands,
different. You're right.
well, everybody except Peter Gabriel was releasing an album every year, pretty much.
Well, nowadays though, bands are taking 4 or 5 years between records. It's
Are
different
they?
now.
Well, that means exponentially, Peter should take probably 50 years between.
It almost has. It almost
I
has.
think he's got another one soon, hasn't he? By
They
all
keep
accounts?
saying it's coming out next year, but they've been saying that for 10 years. So
Giving
we'll see.
Chinese democracy a run for its money.
That's right. But I great record, man. Love. We always like your stuff. I mean, you have your own unique sound, and we love the music you make, and it continues with this record. The first 3 records, it's been documented, and we've talked about it. Was more based on this sci-fi trilogy that you had set out to make, and that was
Yeah, wanted to make some. Those 3 are really pretentious. No, really. No,
But the last album, Feelings Are Good, in this one seem a bit more personal, a bit more direct, I think. I mean, is that intentional, I guess, by your
Yeah.
design?
It was a funny thing actually. Somebody said that "Feelings Are Good" sounds like a breakup record, and I hadn't even broken up at that point. It was no, I was, I kind of, it's weird. It's almost like that last Feelings that it almost it didn't happen. It was like, again, that was slap bang in the middle of the pandemic, and in all honesty, I was talking to Steve Wilson about this, and he said that it's very easy to. I mean, I just don't think. I think people were perhaps being more cautious spending money because. I'll be perfectly honest with you, it didn't sell as well as the previous 3. And Thomas was going, "You need to make an album like the first one." I'm going, "Well, hang on a minute. Is it my fault? Isn't it? Maybe it's the pandemic's fault. I don't know. Whatever. I'm not going to make an album like, I'm not going to repeat myself. We'll try not to. I mean, obviously, there's similarities.
For what it's worth, Armor for My Heart just an epic prog song, if you know what I mean. Not epic prog, but pop and releasable. And I think that was a great moment.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's difficult because I think to be subjective about it, really, I suppose my music isn't particularly progressive. I suppose in some ways there are elements about it, like it's odd time signatures and things, and I don't know. It depends what you call progressive, I suppose, isn't? We've had this endless debate. People always have this endless debate, and there's an awful lot of bands out there doing that regressive thing, with trying to recreate the sounds of a sort of prototype 70s progressive rock band, and I suppose, my music probably leans more towards the 80s than anything, more than the 70s. And
Yeah.
I don't, nothing particularly technically difficult to play, I suppose, in the music that I make, but that doesn't hold any interest with me. I've never liked technicality for technicality's sake. I'll probably get burned at the stake for saying this, but the Yes that I like it is the 1980s version of Yes. More than, I mean, I love Close to the Edge, and I really love Fragile. But beyond that, it kind of left me a bit cold. I know people always go on about Relay being brilliant, but I'm just like, well, no. For some reason, I couldn't get my head around that. And I always like melody over virtuosity, and so that's like at the end of Hearts on 90125,
Yeah.
absolutely beautiful guitar solo that Trevor Rabin played, and he was kind of my hero growing up, along with Ty Tabor from King's X, and I suppose Jeff Beck and Dave Gilmour. That's not to diminish what Steve Howe achieved in the early 70s, and pushing the boundaries
No,
of.
for sure. I get what you're saying. I mean, I think I'm a big fan. I grew up that was my era growing up, the 80s. So I definitely can appreciate both. And I love 90125. I don't see it. For me, it's not any less than Close to the Edge. It's
Yeah,
just different. I mean, Trevor Rabin I'm a huge fan of his
yeah.
music and his solo albums and all
Yeah, I
of
mean,
that. I
Can't
love
Look
that
Away is a
stuff.
great
So
record. It's a really good album. I was very fortunate. I went to see them when they did ARW, and I went to see them in Birmingham Symphony Hall. My friend Lee Pomeroy was playing bass for them,
yeah, yeah.
Sure.
and I got to hang with Trev at the after show. Well, in the hotel bar after the gig, because there was like this. There's like this walkway that went literally from Birmingham Symphony Hall. There's like an elevated walkway that just takes you to a hotel exactly adjacent. So yeah, I just spent an evening hanging with Trev, and he was such a nice guy. But it's yeah, that was
I tell you what, meeting him for me, it's funny because I've met a lot of the great musicians and stuff doing all of this kind of thing, and it's been amazing. But definitely for me, meeting Trevor Rabin at one of those shows was one of the highlights of meeting, an artist, someone I
Yeah,
never thought I'd
can
talk
you
to in my
imagine?
life.
Can you imagine that I met him? That I met him when he was in his early 20s, and he was in a pop band in South Africa called Rabbit.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
I heard about that.
yeah.
yeah,
Well, he does kind of
so
look like Donny Osmond, doesn't he?
Now.
You kind of get your head around it. South Africa, Donny Osmond.
there you go. There you go. So John, whether it's prog or pop, the more melodic side, or the extensive weird time signature stuff that you do, you're known for writing very quickly and getting the job done from writing all the way through to sometimes mastering extremely quickly. Can you tell us more about the process? How quick was it for this album? What was it more measured or a slower approach, or was it also fast?
Well, yeah, I mean, there is an argument that if I spent 5 years making a record, it might be what I don't honestly think, because that's not the way my brain operates really. I think I love the energy that you get in the first few hours of putting a piece of music together. I never sing anything more than 3 times, because I find you kind of there's a sort of innocence about it when you first sing a lyric, and you don't really know how to sing it, so you sing it quite naturally. And the more you think about it, I just like doing things quickly, just because. I suppose I'm not impatient when it comes to music. Or more patience, I've spent 29 years sat in a studio listening to people play badly out of time, and let's do that again, shall we? Should we do that again? Let's do that again. Oh, fine. You go off, I'll play it. Don't tell them. And oh no, not this again. My cat has a habit of hijacking every Zoom call I come on.
Bring her on.
Yeah. He's anyway, we're okay for now. He doesn't realise we're on TV, you see.
Oh,
He's not capable of abstract thought because he's a cat. Which probably means he doesn't know what TV is. And if he did,
cat.
Prog cat, yeah. Bertie the Prog cat.
Grand Prog cat.
There you go. Going back to the question, I honestly I don't really know. I don't know that it would bring anything more to the table if I were to spend more time doing it. I know that, again, when I was chatting with this about Steve, and he said, I said, well, how do you do it? And he goes, well, I kind of write a bit of music and I start working on it. Then I go away from it and I forget about it for 2 weeks and I come back to it. And I'm going, well, how are you going to find it? Do you not find that you've completely lost any kind of context as to what you were doing if you come back to it? Or when I start working on something, all the ideas like literally come at me it's like being in Fireball XL5 going into a meteorite storm.
Right.
Except they're not meteorites, they're musical ideas. And it's not Firewall XL5, it's me with what a rubbish analogy.
Other than that, it's the same.
It's nothing like what I said at all.
No, it's nothing. Anyway, so yeah, and I kind of I over a period of 4 weeks, I think I just got up really early in the morning, worked till late at night and didn't do anything else. And that's it. From not having a note of music to handing it over. That was pretty much 4 weeks, I think.
Is it true that the title always came first, and then the lyrics, and then the music?
Well, that's the only way to write music, really. Ironically, I don't understand. I used to. I'll tell you a funny story, right? There's this band that are quite popular. It's just going to be. I mean, I know I should probably.
You want me to cut this part out?
No. It's not that. It's just that there might be some profane words.
Well, profane is fine. Just if you.
We're used to that.
Well, yeah. So there was this band from the United Kingdom called You Me at Six, right? And they're quite popular. They're still, they were down with the kids. They were like I suppose a pop, not pop punk, but they were kind of they were like like Blink-182 or something like that, And they were very popular. They still are popular. And I produced an album for them, and they turn up at the studio, and I produced several albums for them. Well, a friend of mine and I did that and worked on these albums together. And the singer would never have written any lyrics when they came in the studio, and so none of the songs would have any titles. They all had stupid titles. I mean, really stupid titles, like Scruffy Cat and Ball Bags and all sorts of stupid things like that. And of course, I've become accustomed to these stupid titles, and I know what stupid title relates to what song. And then he'd go away, and I'd hold a gun to the singer's head and said, "You need to write some lyrics now." Although Daniel Lenoir famously locked Peter Gabriel in a shed to force him to write some lyrics.
Yeah, I've read that.
So that approach is not unusual in the world of producing. But so they'd go anyway, and then finally he'd write the lyrics and he'd sing the lyrics, and then at some point further down the line they decided what the song was actually going to be called, and then I'd get all these I'd do a mix or whatever, and I'd send it over to them, and then I'd get an email from management saying, yeah, the guys are really happy with what you did on some like new song title I'd never heard of. They obviously, well, what song is Stay With Me or whatever. What song is that? Oh, that was
Scruffy
whatever
Cat.
it was, Scruffy Cat, Scruffy Cat Ball Bags or whatever the song was. I'm going, well, okay, but I'm not a psychic. I'm not a psychic, am I? So I can't possibly know that Stay With Me is what was formerly known as Scruffy Cat Ball Bags. So Yeah, and it's just a pain in the ass, isn't it? Really, because then
Oh man.
I'd have to sort of, it's just why don't you just write the song, write the lyrics before you go into the studio and decide what the song's going to be called. And in fact, I always write, like I say, I always write to a title, just because that's what I do. That's. I think I might have told you guys a story before, but it was. I remember. It's actually I kind of discovered this after we did that first Kino album. And I just thought, I remember looking at it going, those are some lame titles for songs. And I'm going, I'm never again. Because actually, if you have an interesting title to write to, it really informs the lyrics.
Losers Day Parade. That's
Oh, yeah,
interesting.
that one was good. That one was good. I think I nicked that lyric from a Goo Goo Dolls song. That title was a Goo Goo Dolls lyric, I think. I'm pretty sure. So I thought, well, that'd make a good song title. They missed a trick there, the Goo Goo Dolls. It's too late now. Yeah, anyway, too late now, Goo Goo Dolls. That's mine. So yeah, I find if you write to a title, then the song kind of all the lyrics, it's like having a little cloud, and all the and
So, but taking that approach, now you've released an album. Let's say this was at the time of Feelings Are Good had come out. At what point are you starting to write down random song titles? Do you keep a book of them to refer to later on? Like,
well, it's not so much a book. I've got a little a note on my phone.
Right.
And I go, that one will wait till next time. And I go forever.
So you start storing these things. Is the same thing for musical ideas? Do you save little bits? I mean, do you write a chorus and just save it for a year?
No, nothing. Don't write anything. Don't even pick up a guitar.
Really?
Until required to. I don't. Well, sometimes I might think, oh yeah, that sounds quite cool. Yeah, it's funny, it's the funny thing is I always find myself getting inspired by funny little things, like little motifs on like Netflix sort of binge TV shows, like whatever, Vikings or whatever, things like that. You might hear something or just a couple of notes. You might think, that sounds not. I'm not copying, but the vibe of something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like an atmosphere. I always find that's kind of But like going back to what I was saying when we did the first It Bites, I say the first It Bites. Yeah, I'm going to say the first It Bites album because I don't view It Bites with me in it as anything to do with the It Bites with Dunnery in it. So I'm going to say the first It Bites Mark II album, Tall Ships.
Tall Ships.
Yes, I was going and somebody was around my house and they kind of looked at the bookshelf and sort of one column of books and they said, I can't help but notice that there's like 5 books in a row. And the book titles were The Tall Ships, The Wind That Shakes the Barley, This Is England, Great Disasters. And I'll be honest with you, if I'd have kept going, right, we'd have had a song called Fast and Easy Meals in 15 Minutes or something, A houseplant expert, because I literally said, oh, that would be a good song title, so that's what I did for that, cheating.
That's funny. But I don't think that's I don't know that is a sort of a universal approach from a lot of people. I haven't heard that as being something that's done, by most artists. I don't think.
I don't know. I mean, everyone's got, there's various different ways. I mean, I'm fascinated by how other people put music together as much as the next person. I mean, like I said.
That is always the fascinating part, especially for us asking these questions. It's not, and what I always find interesting is when. And maybe you get this, but some musicians they don't see that part as interesting. They later on go, I don't know how it just happened. I don't know.
Well, yeah, I mean that's always the question. What comes first, the lyrics or that's the most typical question you're going to get asked. But I mean, it's more to do with, again, because I had this long conversation with Steve about it, and he said to me, now how long did it take you to put this album together? And I said, well, 4 weeks from start to finish. He goes, what, like, was that one song? I said, no, the whole thing. He just said, fuck off. But I don't think he's pointing the finger at me, Steve Wilson, because frankly, the guy never stops, does he? He's always got an album on the go. So I'm extremely lazy compared to him. So I'm fascinated by his work ethic more than anything. you know, and it just goes to show, you know, you have to be thick-skinned. I mean, I'm absolutely, I'm the worst kind of person to be a musician, absolutely the worst. You know, I'm
Yeah.
utterly lacking in self-confidence, and I'm very thin-skinned. So, you know, uh, I think I said to him, so how do you, you know, how do you put up with all the naysayers? He says, well, I just deleted Facebook. It's as simple as that.
Right.
You know, there is a world without Facebook, you know, and you didn't have to used to know what people had to say about your music. And actually, that was probably a better thing, because more often than not these days, it's more important to have an opinion than have an opinion that's worth an opinion, you know, or like it's more important just to have an opinion and to express it, you know. And I find that some people, I just find it such a bizarre thing that some people just want to sit there and write negative comments just for, I can't imagine. I mean, I don't particularly like Rush, not because, I'll tell you why I don't like Rush, and I figured it out the other day, finally. It's nothing to do with Rush. They should not take, not that it matters, but
Right.
like, you know, it's, I've watched Behind the Lighted Stage about 6 times now because I'm fascinated by Rush. But at the same time, I realized it was when I was at school in my first band. You know, you're supposed to kind of discover your own music. So, you know, I was in this band with these two brothers, and they kind of forced me to listen to Rush, and they always wanted to cover Rush songs, and I kind of felt like I was like, I feel like I was being held hostage to like Rush, and I feel that my whole thing about Rush is like Stockholm syndrome or something, you know. I don't know. But you know, nothing against Rush really. But you know, I would never dream of going on Rush.com and going, you know, you guys suck, you know, or you know, I can't. Why would you do that? There's just no point.
No,
We haven't got better
no.
things to do with your time. But I find it fascinating that there are people out there who just like watching Rome burn and saying unpleasant things. You
They
know?
love being negative online. It's
Yeah.
one of the worst
Well, I
things
love
ever.
that. Was that Jay and
So,
Silent Bob film? Where they get the addresses of they get the was it ISPs or whatever, the, you know, the internet, and they find out where people live, and they are you, you know, are you Jared so and so? I put it to you, did you say on this particular day such and such?
Ramo. All right.
Okay.
So this thing was delivered in record time. And what's more remarkable is that you played absolutely everything and sang absolutely everything, except for drums, which of course was done by your go-to guy, the great, now great Craig
Yeah,
Blundell.
yeah.
So do you want to tell us about that?
Well, I can tell you actually, and it's funny enough. It's not an awkward conversation, but it was in a way that yes, Craig is technically on the album, but not as we know it. It's Life Jim, but not as we know it. It's he was. I mean, he's been on. I don't know if you know this about Steve Hackett, but Steve Hackett doesn't seem to go on holiday. He just stays on tour the entire time.
Year
So
round.
he's like
Yep.
Constant touring. Yeah.
constant touring. It's like, you know, that film Contact with the guy in the plane that lives in the plane that just never touches down, just goes round and round the world. That's basically what Steve Hackett's doing. Is he just stays on tour,
Yeah.
and you know, all power to him. Well, you know, yeah. I mean, yeah. I can't imagine anything worse than being on tour for the, you know, for the amount of time he seems to be on tour. But you know, if it makes him happy, I guess
He's
it's
got to love it.
he got it. Yeah. Although I don't think I'm going to say he's going to run out of albums to play soon, isn't he? He's going to like Steve Hackett plays the entirety of Invisible Touch. Hang on a minute.
Again.
Well, when we get to that point, we know it's over.
I like him.
So does that mean that Craig was unavailable, or
Well, he
was it a
was
problem?
kind of on. He was unavailable. Well, he was on tour, so maybe, you know, what normally happens is he turns up here, and you know, because the thing about Lonely Robot is all the drums on Lonely Robot albums, V drums. So it's all, you know, I kind of, it's all like he plays it in on electric, like a TD-70, I think he's got, and he's very into all that tech. You know, he's a kind of Roland demonstrator, so he knows all about, you know, how to make that stuff work, and he's really, really good at it. And normally he turns up here, and he doesn't often. I don't often give him much of a chance to listen to the music beforehand, so he'll just listen a couple of times and make some notes, and then he'll just cut loose and do his thing. And sometimes, I remember on the first album, he was like sat there in my front room and set up the kit, and I was just holding up bits of A4 saying, you know, 7/8 here, 6/4 here, and, you know, chorus, don't bore us, get to the chorus. So, you know, I was literally just giving him a rope.
Don't rehearse, get to the verse.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, and of course, he was on tour with Steve Hackett, and I just want to make sure that everyone. I'm just joking about Steve Hackett.
Oh, sure, no, of course.
I'm not big. I'm just an extremely sarcastic person, as everybody knows, and not everybody understands my sense of humor, unfortunately. Yeah, I didn't want to. The last thing he needed was me hassling him. Can you get these? So I just thought, well, and the deadline's looming, and of course we all know that deadlines are immovable, especially now because apparently vinyl is the most important thing in the world. Once you miss your vinyl slot, that's it. It's over. So I thought, well, okay, what am I going to do? So what I kind of did was I kind of revisited. I mean, there's stuff that he's recorded that doesn't even appear on Lonely Robot albums. Like I just got him to play certain grooves and patterns and things and various bits and pieces, and I went through my sort of previous albums and sort of took little bars here and bars there and kind of and augmented them and moved things around a bit and jigged
Oh,
them about.
wow.
So I kind of I kind of recycled some of what went before.
Sounds amazing though that way. It's like you.
It's well, it is bonkers. I mean, it's not ideal, and it's by far absolutely in a million years I wouldn't want to do it again because it's like I enjoyed the process of working with him on these things, and he's a good friend to me, and I just enjoy hanging out with him. So, and yeah, I had a conversation with him, a text conversation with him the other day, and I said, yeah, this is look. I said, unfortunately, due to all the circumstances, and you're on tour, and I had a deadline, and yeah, so I mean, it's not ideal, but it's yeah. I mean, it's not the ideal way to work, but it's certainly we got it done. So yeah.
Cool.
Uh,
Let's talk about guitars, John. I mean, from no guitar solos whatsoever on Day and Age to now very copious guitar solos on A Model Life.
Far too many.
I mean, no, not never too
You can
many.
never have too many.
Everybody knows from reading my reviews of your stuff how much I love your guitar solos. So tell us about your return to the solo. Which is your favorite guitar solo on the album?
Well, I'll tell you about. We'll talk about guitars first and foremost. I mean, a lot of I'm endorsed by Cort guitars, who whenever I play live with whoever, I always use Cort guitars. But on this, I kind of wanted a bit of a different sound in places. So there's a lot of Telecaster on this album. I played a lot of. I've got a knackered old Squire Telecaster from the '80s. So most of the guitar on this album was a Telecaster, so it's quite jingly jangly, But as for the guitar solos, yeah, I mean, I just kind of, I know, I kind of, funny enough, we're talking about Day and Age, what we did actually do, I remember when we were recording it, and when we initially we did all the tracks in Devon and the other place that we went to. And then Jem would be working on the songs on his own, and he'd go, can you put a guitar solo in this section here? I said, yeah, sure. So I play a guitar solo. I'd meticulously construct this guitar solo. So I was really happy with it. And then, the album was finished. I'm going, oh, where once was my guitar solo is now another vocal part. I remember thinking, so there is a version of this Frost that actually is riddled with a few guitar solos. But, we stuck to the brief, which was no guitar solos and no Widley synth solos, because we wanted to make it more about the song, and it's very easy. That's kind of what Frost is known for. It's like, blazing technicality and a lot of, clever instrumentation. And that's not really what that album was about. And I just kind of looked over at my guitars on my rack, and they all looked at me and they said, John, play us. And I said, oh, all right then. And I just think, the mood of the album, there's a lot of CP80 on the album, and I always write on a keyboard. I don't write on guitar. And I just thought, I just thought it would really, really, I don't know, it's just crying out for guitar solos in certain places,
Yeah, you can always have
I've been writing the review for the album, and so I've heard it. And I'm going to mention one song in particular, Species in Transition.
Oh, yeah.
Wow, that solo, man, it just blew me away, I got to tell you.
Oh, thank you very much. Well, as I say, with this album, they're not, I think in previous Lonely Robot albums when I have played guitar solos, it's always trying to find a way to be flashy in certain places. And this is more about, I just wanted to play, front pickup, big feel, kind of just going for it. And, I've always loved, well, I'm not comparing myself to him, but like people like Jeff Healey. I always really liked his guitar playing. You know, where the soaring vibrato, you know, and that's kind of that. I suppose, if anything, if I had a trademark, I suppose that's kind of it. You know, these big, like certainly within the remits of like, say, for example, Arena. You know, that's kind of these big epic solos, and I just thought, well, you know, I've given myself the album off, the previous album off from guitar solos. Maybe they should make a bit of a return. And I always it's always about the feel for me. You know, not about cutting loose and playing fast. Not that I have a certain amount of chops, but not that many. You know.
One of my favorite songs from the first even listen is the Starlit Stardust.
Yeah.
On the new record, which is just awesome as an amazing chorus. But I always think it's interesting in that song, the time change between the chorus and then that main guitar riff, right? It's almost like two different feels in that same song.
I think it's actually all in 4/4. It's just it's all in 3/4. It's just
it's in 6/8, isn't it?
Is it 6/8? I don't know.
I'm sure.
I don't know. I'm counting.
It feels the riff is like in one tempo, and then it sort of is like in a half feel the second part, and then but it all, when you're listening to it together, it flows seamlessly, and I think it's done really, really brilliantly the way that works.
I had to say, I think it's in 3/4.
I think you'd know.
3, 4, 6, 8, same thing, right?
Same thing.
Well, it depends what measures you're counting. But the fact of the matter is that when it goes into back into the riff, I think that's also in 3/4, but the drums are playing in 4 over it. That's what makes it.
That would be it.
That's what gives it that 6 feel.
That's the one. That's what gets me into prog mag. You see, just doing that whole thing.
Maybe that's why I like that song so much.
You know, I'm very. I mean, as I say, it's quite a personal album, and it's that song is about, it's kind of about two things really. It's about, sort of singing about, my mum, both my parents died when I was quite young, and I miss my mum dearly. Not, I had a very complicated relationship with my dad, and I was in my imaginarium, as it were. I was always thinking, what would it be like? I'm not a religious person at all. But if there was such a thing, as an afterlife or whatever, what it would like to be to reconnect with one's mum. And of course, when I was 4, which is kind of what the first verse is about. When I was singing, alluding to, is about when I was 4, I almost died. I fell in the Thames, which is a river in England. And I went floating off downstream at about 6 o'clock in the morning in the middle of November. Was it October or November? It was extremely. Our house sort of backed onto the river, and I managed to escape the house really early in the morning, and I fell into the river, and off it went, and off it took me away. And more by luck than judgment, there happened to be a guy in a canoe. I mean, what madman goes canoeing at 6 in the morning in November or whatever? Nobody's sane. But thank goodness I suppose we wouldn't be having this conversation otherwise. But he hoiked me out. I was about half a mile downstream, and he hoiked me out and took me back home. So yeah,
that's a wild story. That's amazing.
So yeah, they're kind of songs about that, and the sort of the whole, the idea of if there is I kind of. I didn't mean to be insulting to religious people, but I thought, well, I'm not really religious, so if God is going to be mentioned in this, he's going to have very small hands. Which is, anyway, just meeting my sense of humor again. Sorry.
But it's sort of just staying in line with some of the songs. There's a couple of videos out for the album's first track, Recalibrating, and then a really, let's say, strange video for Island of Misfit Toys.
Yeah. Prog baiting video.
Career ending. You said, right?
Career ending.
So,
here it is.
Just talk about putting the videos together and having fun with that one. Which
we got another one to do on Friday, which I'm quite excited about. But yeah, that first one, I've always worked with Miles, who does a lot of videos for various progressive rock bands, but he's become very popular now. And he's so popular that I can't get near him anymore. He's become showbiz, and he does all this stuff for Stephen and various other people. And he's a very busy guy, and his prices have gone up. He's, the price hike. He's like almost as expensive as petrol in this country right now. But I kind of I wanted him to do the recalibrating video, but he wasn't available at the time. So I did a shout out on Facebook, and ultimately I don't think that went very well either. So yeah, we ended up using a guy that did a visualizer for Frost. He's the same guy that did the Island Life visualizer video. And yeah, it is a bit odd to me looking at that, because it looks like a knitwear commercial or something. All these beautiful people wandering around beaches looking looking beautiful. What the fuck has this got to do with me? But we needed a video of some sort, So yeah, it's a Portuguese guy, and he didn't have very much time to put it together, and he did the best with what he could in the time that he was given. Yeah, but then of course Misfit Toys, I thought, right, that's enough. So I rang up Miles and threatened with him. I've got some incriminating evidence up my sleeve. I said, if you don't make this video, you're going down. You're going to get cancelled. No, I didn't really, but he agreed to do it. I said, come on, Miles, all that serious stuff you do. You want to have fun with me? Remember, we always have fun. So he said, yeah, all right then, let's make a video. So yeah, we spent the morning making a little island out of sand and sticking dolls and stuff in it, and we just thought it was supposed to be a kids TV show that sort of goes slightly disturbing towards the end. I don't know what I was thinking. That's not really what the song is about. The song, I'd like people to guess what the song is about. It's quite obvious what the song is about if you actually read the lyrics. But yeah, I just thought it'd be funny to. I've always fancied myself as a kids TV presenter. I'm obviously too old to be a kids TV presenter, but a friend of mine, Alana, she agreed to do it with me. So yeah, we're just mucking about, just being absolute children, mucking about in a sand pit,
Well, it's fun. I mean, I think a lot of times, especially with let's call this prog, humor isn't often involved in the things like the videos and stuff like that. So
No,
that's always good.
yeah, Peter Gabriel's always had like a sense of humor about the things that he does. I mean, I always thought he did. But he must have a sense of humor. Nobody can ride around on a bike on stage without a sense of humor, or walk upside down with his daughter. You got to have a sense of humor, right? Well,
Yeah, sure.
Would seem so.
Bonkers.
So John, can we talk about the production of the album very briefly? I mean, there are some unique production sounds to my ears anyway on this, like those stabs in Misfit Toys. Can you tell us more about the production, and then finally we'll wrap up with a word about the gig that you've got coming up in Reading?
Yeah, sure. Just wanted to, what can I say about it? I kind of just like for example, Misfit Toys. That's like a Farfisa through a Farfisa plug-in through an envelope filter. I just thought, I was just mucking around. I mean, it's like I just thought, well, and I was trying to find a sound for the second verse, and I was going, yeah, a Farfisa, obviously. It sound like the Beach Boys, because it is an island, right? So then I thought, well, that's not kooky enough, so I stuck it through an envelope filter, so it's got wow, 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 like this, and I thought, yeah, and there's all sorts of things. There's Glocken, I really wanted for this record. I wanted to muck around with. Yeah, I've always liked things like I really like Japan Tin Drum Album, and the thing that I always liked about it was it sounds like some of the keyboards are going through a vibrato. They've got this wavering kind of going in and out of tune thing, and I like that. So there's certain things on, like there's a bell sound I created and put it through a vibrato, so it kind of undulates, and it's got like a reverb tail that undulates with the sound of the bell, and it just sounds really eerie. I think that's on Duty of Care. I use that, and on the song Rain Kings, and other place in the album. There's like I recorded my cello and distorted it and kind of looped it and made little loops, and that's the start of Digital God Machine. That's just that scratchy cello, and I just recorded making horrible noises on it. And elsewhere on the last track, I bought this harmonium for 40 quid from this thrift store down the road, and I recorded that and chopped it up. So yeah, I just enjoy mucking around with. I just it's half of it for me. The fun of it is finding those soundscapes and those little found noises that you don't really hear on a first listen, or tiny little details.
Yeah.
Also on Misfit Toys, as an homage to Trevor Rabin, there's that whoever this is, can they go away? They're distracting me.
It's
Is
Jay
that your
Godfrey.
computer? I keep looking around mine thinking that something's beeping.
Who the hell is this man who's beeping at me? I don't need to know you're
I
taking
thought it
a
was
shower.
me the whole time, and I couldn't figure out what it was.
No, it was me. I've told this. I'm recording this band today, and I told them I have to go and do an interview, and they're going, "Okay, so why are you messaging me?" Anyway, so yeah, and there's it on the I think it's on the Can't Look Away. Is it something to hold on to? Trevor, you're gonna hear it. He'll be singing something, and then in the background he'll yell something out of one.
Yeah,
speaker,
yeah,
and something comes
totally. I
along.
know what you're talking about. Yeah.
And I thought, I know what, I'm gonna do that. So Misfit Toys has like a bit of random laughter and shouting and stuff, and going, "Hey," like Fonzie. And so just silly things like that amuse me. It's the window dressing that I find amusing. Well, I find the whole process amusing, and I know that if I listen back to something and I find myself laughing or chuckling, I know I've done what I think is a good job. But yeah, no, like you say, going back to Misfit Toys, it's like it is a bit different because I suppose it is quite humorous in a certain way, and people seem to take great offence to anything remotely. And some go on my Facebook going how ugly the video was and how utterly hideous the video was, and I hope the rest of the album isn't. I don't want to even give this guy plaudits. It's like, dude, chill out.
Yeah. Just having a laugh at something, man. Like,
yeah, man, chill out. Yeah, you like
grow a sense of humor.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's there's a lot of things on the album where I'm kind of just experimenting with different things. The glockenspiel, I love like a toy musical box things, and elsewhere I use it's called a preset of this really old plugin I've got called Hypersonic. I'm very good friends with the guy, artist relations at Steinberg. And I said to this guy, I said, I can't get Hypersonic to run, and I'm really upset because I switched operating systems and I can't get it to run. And because he's German, he laughed and he said something like, "That belongs in the Science Museum." I'm like, "Yeah, but you've never created anything quite as good as that at Steinberg." So he got his development team to help me figure out how we get it to work on a wrapper, not a sweep.
There's no log like analog. Right?
No, exactly that. So and I got this thing called Gangster Wine. You used to hear it on the early nights, like this. And I love that sound. So I think John Beck got me into that sound. So I kind of used it on a few places on this record. I just love it, man. I'm a frustrated keyboard player, I think. What can I tell you?
Speaking of John Beck, very quickly, any chance of an It Bites album? And then we'll talk about the gig in Reading.
Well, okay. We have to make an album. We signed a contract. We took some money, so we don't make it.
He said, like Walter the Grumpy Man.
Yeah.
We love that news, man.
We're going to go to prison if we don't make an album.
Well, good.
Fantastic
So we're excited. Good. We want to hear it. Make it happen.
Okay, 26th of August, you are doing a gig at a venue in Reading. You want to tell us about that?
Yeah, I kind of realised actually I've led people, and they shouldn't complain. They're not getting charged for it. It's just a gig, but it's not going to be full band. It's going to be me and a keys player and maybe a bass player as well. So it's like a trio thing, and I'm just going to be playing like 4 or 5 songs off the new record, and then we're going to play a bunch of the old stuff like How Bright Is the Sun and maybe Oubliette and things off the first 3 records. Just be a fun evening, We're also
cool.
We're planning on doing something the day before up in London, just like a playback session in the Everyman Cinema. I think we've just only confirmed that today. Nothing like lastminute.com, right? So yeah, I'm excited about it. Means I'm gonna have to practice the guitar, unfortunately, which I apparently I have to do because apparently there's a tour coming up in October anyway. Oh,
there you go.
Yeah.
Good, man. Well, this is all exciting. Excited for that gig and the album coming out, and hopefully some tour dates with, well, you got the Frost stuff and then some Lonely Robot stuff happening. So all good, man.
Yeah.
Really exciting. Again, we'll wrap up, but we got a Model Life comes out August 26th. The great John Mitchell and Lonely Robot, and look out for the follow-up album, Scruffy Cat Ball Bags, which I think is just something I'm going to remember forever.
Well, yeah. I think there's a lesson in there always for all of us, really, isn't there? Always right to a title. Yeah.
Always right to a title. All right, man.
Okay.
Take it easy. Have a good night, man. We'll talk to you soon.
Lovely to speak to you both, and we'll speak again soon, hopefully.
Thank you, John.
Absolutely.
Great
All right,
speaking
man.
to you, man.
Okay,
Take care.
you too. Bye bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.